Hi everyone, welcome back to another awesome day camp. This year's theme is space games. The entire concept is basically revolving not just around science, engineering, flying, things like that with the NOVA Award and other kind of STEM activities, but also throwing in a lot of team building with a lot of games and working together. So we have space games. We're really lucky because I think this year everyone that is on staff running a station has been to day camp before in one capacity or another. So first off, thank you, and thank you for being willing to stick it out another year. Hopefully this year goes really well as they have in the past. We've got the most registered scouts and non-scouts, prospective scouts that we've ever had before. So we're really looking forward to it. Obviously, day camp won't happen without you, and so we really appreciate you. If there's something we can do to help that's within our means or our power, let us know. But we really appreciate all the time and energy, blood, sweat, tears, and especially all the laughter that happens before and after camp too. So, introducing the staff here. First, just Matt Kaufman is still kind of our district executive, so we do answer to him. Of course, with the merger of the councils, Tom and I have been involved, and we kind of answer to another person. Her name is Susie, but Matt is our closest kind of executive should we need kind of immediate assistance. Tom is the camp director. That means kind of logistical things or space, or if we even have someone at camp that we don't think should be there, he'll be the person to deal with it. Wendy Jolly is our co-director. She's just kind of everybody's awesome right-hand helper, so she will float in and help out as needed. We're really happy to have Wendy involved again. I'm the program director, and so I have written your program plans as best as I could. Admittedly, because you're all experts at this day camp thing, I feel like I didn't put as much detail maybe as I did 3 years ago, but I think that everyone's a pro. But with that, know that it's very likely that I have made mistakes in the program plans at some point, or I've forgotten to put something in your boxes that we pre-pack or something. So if you have questions, just let me know. Tom's mom, Jean, is back on staff to be our camp nurse. We're really thankful to have her. She'll be coming down for the week. And then we also have all of you awesome station leaders. CJ and Mark have once again stepped up to the plate to run our shooting range. On Friday, at the request of our son Luke, since this is his last year at day camp, we decided to do one thing special for our kid, and he requested that we do slingshots or wrist rockets and the paintballs again. So on Friday, we'll be pulling David Lyons and Tom and Chris Coble to the range as well to help out. Doing our game station, which we're calling Space Games, will be Nick Walsh and Eric Mannon. That'll be in the same place games have been before, kind of near the smaller pavilion up, kind of not at the top of the hill, but kind of towards that at least. Stacy Atwater and Jill Parton will be running our space station activity. Those are indoor games. The concept is when you're bored and you don't have anything to do, what are games that could keep you busy, or maybe even things that you could play with your siblings or your family. And so we've got just some regular old household games that we have identified that a lot of kids don't know how to play, which is kind of sad. So Stacy and Jill will be taking that on in the smaller pavilion at the top of the hill, kind of near the Space Games area as well. Rebecca Monroe is back leading our crafts again. She'll be doing the space crafts, and those are at the end of the large pavilion. We have Sharon Renfro back with us again. She'll be kind of we've called it the landing, but it's kind of the middle parking lot road-ish area between the big pavilion and the small pavilion right near the cemetery. We call it the upper landing, and that'll be the Out of This World station. They'll be building solar systems there and doing some sound experiments and a couple other things as well. So they'll be very busy. Running our STEAM building station, because it's not just team building, but everything is kind of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics minded at that station. The STEAM building station will be run by Michelle Klein, and that's under the big tree by the large pavilion. It's the oldest tree in the park, so I'm told. And last but not least, we've got Ed Walton and David Lyons. They're going to be working near the shed that's in the lower part of the park again, and that station is going to be the Build It station. The boys, not boys, the scouts, my fault, the slip of the tongue will happen a lot, I'm sure. The scouts and prospective scouts will be building several different things at that station. The day camp groups are still a little bit of a work in progress, and that's because we still have registrations happening. We're at 107 right now. The goal was 115, although frankly, Tom and I have been pleased that the last 3 years we've been over 100. So we're satisfied with our numbers, but we do anticipate probably getting at least a couple more. Right now, we've got the red group, the blue group, the purple group, the green group, the orange group, black group, yellow group, and white group. If you did the counting, that means there are 8 groups this year. In order to make sure that there were not more than 16, which would be safely divided up into 2 groups on the range especially, we just really can't get it done in 7. So I'm sorry to our station leaders, there won't be that extra station of a break time this time. However, Tom is not running a station intentionally this year, so that means that Wendy and I and Tom are able to jump in and run a station for a session if anyone needs a break. Walking leaders and station leaders are encouraged to take a break during that noontime program following lunch when we get all of the campers onto the tarp to listen to the noontime program. We'd encourage everyone who's a leader in any way to kind of take a step back and get a little break. We'll keep our eye on the kids. And again, please know that those groups might change, numbers might change, but we've asked them to cap the camp at 115. A couple of really important things. I'm pretty sure that everyone's already done their mandatory trainings, but everybody has to have done the youth protection training, and it has been updated. And so if you didn't do it in the past year, you're probably going to have to redo it. You can find that at myscouting.org. We need to get your certification date from the council office if you've done it recently, or you can send us the JPEG or a PDF. Please note that all adults at camp, that's tiger parents, walking leaders, station leaders, volunteers, etc., need to have done that youth protection training. So any help you can get sharing that with your pack or your pack leader or whatever would be really helpful. Daily check-in and check-out is the same as we've done it every year. Every adult needs to sign in and out daily at the admin tent. All adults at camp wear a wristband. If an adult's seen in camp without a wristband, we request that you let us know. You can text us or call us, but also ask them to come to the admin tent. If you can't physically watch them do that, make sure that you communicate with us so that we know to keep our eye out for someone. Parking and shoes, again, I think everybody knows this, but we would request that you please park in the upper lots at the state park so that we save lots of room for parents dropping off and picking up their kids. This year, we literally have a bus bringing over 30 scouts from the Mount Zion area, and we're going to have room for them to get in and out. We also want to make sure that we can safely get 107 kids in and out of camp. And so with that said, we would like to very much ask you to park kind of out of the way up the hill. Yes, that means even past the cemetery. I recognize it's a walk, and I apologize for that, but we do appreciate your help. Again, you can't be at camp with open-toed shoes, no flip-flops or sandals. In fact, frankly, closed-toed and closed-heel shoes would be preferred. It's a long day, y'all, so wear shoes that are comfortable. So even as I finished this PowerPoint before I did the voiceover with the recording, we had 105 registered. Now we have 107. Again, the goal is 115, and we literally have registrations open until the day of camp. So keep them coming, and maybe we'll really get to 115. You will all be signing the BSA Code of Conduct. If you don't sign it before we see you on early registration on Tuesday or even on Wednesday morning, that's okay. You can also print it if you want to, but basically, I won't read them all, but essentially we just want to remind you that we are following all of the expectations at camp and that we are being good stewards of the scouting BSA expectations. One thing that I will just remind everyone is that there can't be any alcohol or drugs or marijuana or even smoking at camp. Certainly no firearms or anything like that. But please remember that even smoking isn't allowed at camp. Again, just one more reminder that there is no smoking at camp. That is generally not a problem with our staff. It tends to be more of an issue with those that are maybe attending with their child. So if you see someone smoking and you don't feel comfortable saying anything to them, if you would let Tom or I know, we would appreciate it. There's no smoking in the area at camp, so they either need to leave the camp or go sit in their car way up away from the scouts, or they can also go somewhere else, but frankly, it's just not to happen at camp. That does include any type of tobacco use, and it does include vaping. So there was a question about that last year, and we now have the answer. I think everybody is aware that they have to have a medical form on file with the camp administration. So if you would please make sure that you bring a copy of the med form part A and B for you on Tuesday night to early registration would be ideal, but if you're not able to come to that, then Wednesday. If not, if you want to drop it off at our house too, that would be okay. Again, it's parts A and B, and that is really important. We know that, we don't want anything to go wrong, but should it go wrong, we want to make sure that we have the information to give to the first responders. Jean will be looking through all those forms of the scouts and prospective scouts, and certainly to any adults, especially for allergens. So again, please make sure that we have those. If you are leadership for your pack, or if you know the leadership for your pack, if you could remind them that we really want to have all med forms for the pack on the Tuesday before day camp begins, when we do that early registration at Christ United Church from 5 to 7 on the 11th. That's really when we want to get all those forms so that we can have all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted before we show up for camp on Wednesday morning. At the end of camp, you can have your med form back if you ask us for it. Otherwise, I'm required to turn in everything for day camp on the Monday after day camp. So I'll be expected to turn those in to the office, and it's my understanding that they will be, part A will be kept, and then part B will be destroyed. Just a couple of things about just kind of the leadership style that we'd like to have at day camp. I think one of the reasons that day camp has grown over the last years, and that we continue to get so many folks and even volunteers back, is because of the expectations of the camp. We would like to encourage everyone to use the scout sign to quiet the scouts and prospective scouts rather than yelling signs up or be quiet or anything else. We want everyone to kind of channel their inner teacher and wait for them to be polite and respectful rather than shouting over them. Be really careful not to talk over the scouts. They won't listen to you. They also won't know what's going on if they don't. But even though it's a camp, we still want them to make sure that they live all those scout law principles, which includes courteous and kind and obedient. This one always makes me giggle. Camp is supposed to be fun. It truly is a fun experience. But we certainly don't want everyone just running around in chaos. And in fact, as much as the boys might want to run around, or excuse me, not boys, as much as the scouts and prospective scouts might want to run around and play tag or something along those lines, frankly, we all know that by Friday, everyone's exhausted. And so we would encourage that not to happen. There's plenty of walking and activity without doing kind of those extraneous things on top of that. Also, especially to the walking leaders, if you could help encourage manners at the stations by saying please and thank you, even as you're just leaving the station, having all of the campers turn around and say thank you to the station leader just goes a long way in providing the leadership that we're hoping for. And lastly, but it is required that everyone at camp use the buddy system. They always need to have a buddy. If they're not caught, or if they are caught without a buddy, then unfortunately that means they're my buddy for a while and I'm not that fun. So we want to make sure that they really use the buddy system. And yes, that even means going to the restroom when the leader can see them. All right, so although our station leaders are all returning day camp volunteers, our walking leaders are not. Many of our walking leaders are brand new. So first off, thank you for volunteering and thank you for doing the training. Walking leaders are a really, really important facet to camp. I think most of us started helping at day camp as a walking leader. We came either as a tiger parent to help our own kid, or we needed somebody to walk with the pack, and that's somehow how we got roped in. So don't be afraid. We're not going to make you be in charge next year, but it is a really nice way to kind of get the idea of what's going on at camp. So a walking leader is essentially the responsible adult that will have up to 16, but shouldn't have more than 16 children in the group. They won't necessarily all be from the same pack. Sometimes they are, but they aren't always. And it's the walking leader's responsibility to make sure that they are safe, that they work together, that they take turns. And I'd like to take that one step forward and say that they get to know each other, that they learn each other's names. 16 kids should know each other's names in a group by Friday. That's not an unrealistic expectation, especially if we're using names and we're working together and we're dividing groups up often so that the same kids aren't always together. And so we're really looking for that kind of leadership from the walking leaders to ensure that that part of the camp is fun. The program and the programming and the activities, I think, are going to provide a lot of fun and a lot of excitement and are going to be very engaging for all of the campers. But frankly, my own kids, if I ask them what their favorite part about day camp is, it's oftentimes walking between station to station, shouting their chants, or at closing ceremonies when they're all screaming their chants as loud as they can, or singing boom chicka boom as loud as they can, or all those different activities. So don't think that just because you're not running a station, you're not important. Your leadership actually may impact the success of day camp more than you know. Sometimes it's an issue that we have random adults that decide they think they want to stay at day camp. As a general rule, this hasn't been too big of a problem because we require training for every adult at camp. But if it is a problem, we just need you to let Tom or I know. Essentially, we don't want someone to just pop into camp and come run and check on their kid. That's sort of the objective that we don't want to happen. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one is that oftentimes that person who's popping in to check on their kid isn't dressed appropriately for camp, and there's a likelihood that they'll get hurt. Two, they haven't signed any paperwork or done a med form, and there's a liability for all of us for them to be there. None of us know if they've done youth protection. And so again, that's a liability for the scouts and us. But really mostly, it's not always good for young younger children to have people come and go so often. It's just a little bit more tricky, especially for those that may be having a hard time being at camp all day long. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to have those goodbyes keep extending longer and longer, especially, you know, for those of you that have done this before, it seems like just when we get a kid who's a little homesick, active and engaged and having a great time with their friends, then the parent shows up and suddenly we're back to ground zero. So if someone is concerned or they're worried about their child, please let them come talk to me, because I'm happy to talk with them, and I'm certainly willing to listen and explain why we do it the way we do it. And I'm always willing to call parents if there's any type of concerns. But we would like to avoid just having random people walking with the groups. And of course, walking leaders, I alluded to it earlier, but you will have a fun time assisting with the den spirit through songs and chants and cheers and yells and all those great things. The only thing that we ask is that they are spirited, but not putting others down. So we want them to cheer and be excited for everyone, but we don't want one group to put down another group in their chant. Again, help them with the activities, but make sure that you don't do it for them. Of course, tigers have a tiger parent with them, and they might need a little extra help, but especially during a few of the stations, because we're working on the Nova Award, some of the activities are challenging, and some of the scouts are going to get very, very frustrated, and we're going to have to work very hard to coach them through it and provide just enough assistance that they stay out of their comfort zone and in the learning zone rather than doing the work for them. I'd also like to encourage walking leaders to keep track of who they're allowing to carry the flag, leading the cheers, going first, being the caboose, things like that. Everybody likes a job, and if you rotate those jobs around, I promise it'll make your 3 days go smoother. The most important part that the walking leaders do is keep track of the daily attendance. So every day there'll be a box with a bit of the same color that your group is of duct tape around it. There'll also be a clipboard. On the clipboard there will be a sign in and out sheet. Every day the scouts are going to get a canvas bag and a cup, and they're going to need to leave that canvas bag and cup in this big box with the tape around it, so everyone's in their same group, right? The sign in and sign out clipboards need to be given to me every night, because I have to reconcile all that information at the end of every day, mostly to make sure I didn't lose anybody, but also because I have to turn it into the council. Safety is the #1 priority at camp, and that's why we do the sign in and sign out sheets. That's why I need those clipboards every night. That's why there's a walking leader with every group. That's also why we have certain things roped off at camp. And so if something's roped off, please leave it alone. It might be poison ivy, it might be a drop off, it might be stairs that we don't want the scouts to go on, or it might be a wasp nest, who knows. So please don't go exploring past the caution tape. The biggest concern that we have, and it's hopefully never ever going to happen, is if we should lose a scout, if there's a missing scout, right? The likelihood of this happening is very small, but generally what could potentially happen is one group wanders off with another part of their pack. We do have several packs that have enough kids coming that we're dividing them into 2 groups. In fact, 3 packs have so many kids that there are 2 groups each of them. So maybe one person from pack 35 wanders away with the wrong color of 35 because they recognize all of them. Or maybe you took a restroom break on your way up to games and didn't realize that there was still one more in the bathroom. So every walking leader needs to bring a whistle to camp. We've provided them in the past. However, again, most people have their own, and because of germs, it would probably be better if you would just bring your own. If you don't have one, please let us know and we'll buy you one. But if you could bring one, that would be better. And the only time to use that whistle would be to tell the rest of the camp that there's a missing scout. And of course, you should grab your phone at the same time you're blowing the whistle and be calling and texting Tom and Wendy and I so that we know what's going on. If you have a missing scout in your group, we want you to blow your whistle continuously for long durations, as long as you can hold it, and then do it again and again and again. The shooting range uses short whistle blows, and so that's how we'll tell the difference between the two if we're just really holding out these long whistle blows. For everyone at camp, station leaders and walking leaders, if you hear the long whistle blow, we need you to stop the activity you're doing, immediately sit everyone down and take attendance. Determine if you have any extra people in your group, extra scouts. Let Wendy or I know if you do have an extra person or if you're missing someone else. We will wait for about 5 minutes to determine what's going on. So basically, we hear the long whistle blow and camp stops for 5 minutes, and you need to keep everyone seated and occupied. So sing a song, play a very quiet game, but we need to be able to communicate. If the scout is still missing after that, we will have all walking leaders walk the groups to the main pavilion where we all have lunch. And then at that time, all station leaders will do an all-camp search. At that point in time, it will be the walking leader's responsibility to keep all of the scouts in their group together and occupied while the directors and the station leaders start searching. All searching will start with first the restrooms and the playgrounds. This is just really important. Anytime, I've looked up and not seen my kids when I was at the grocery store, and your heart does a little nosedive and you panic a little bit. Here's the thing, panicking in front of anyone is not going to help us. And so we need to ask all of you to remain calm in this experience, if this should happen, and to be very quick to communicate, but just to be very willing to just keep the scouts as calm as we can. We don't need to tell the scouts necessarily why we're doing what we're doing. If we have the loud whistle blows and we all go to the big pavilion, it would probably be better for you not to say it means a scout's missing. It would probably be better for you to say, oh, it sounds like someone's not where they're supposed to be. We're all going to go to the main pavilion to figure it out. It's not really necessary to get all of that drama going in their minds about what could be going on when it's probably a very simple solution. So again, no panicking, and please follow the procedures so that we can make sure we find any missing scouts. The security at camp is very safe. Not that many people come out to Lincoln Trail Homestead. The police department knows we'll be there. The fire department knows we'll be there. So that's good. Even the hospitals know that we'll be there. So we've got a lot of people engaged about what's going on. The one thing that I will say is that the road is still a road. We'll do our best to block it off, but it is still open to the public. Generally, if they stop at the headquarters, I basically say the camp is being occupied. So, although I can't really tell them to leave, that's generally what happens. But oftentimes, if a car comes into the park, I might text all of our station leaders and say, there's a red car just came into camp. They're just driving through. Keep your eyes out, things like that. But essentially, if we always have the scouts within eyesight and we're always got them occupied with an activity, it shouldn't be an issue. Again, everyone needs to have a wristband at camp. That means all scouts and all adults. Any early dismissals and late arrivals have to sign in and out on the DENS clipboard, and that means that I will probably walk them up to you when they get there late or when they need to leave early. Please be very careful to stay in the boundaries at camp. There is a ton of poison ivy out there. And there's some pretty steep drops to the river. If the scouts really go somewhere they're not supposed to go, it could be very problematic. We don't even use that part of the grounds, but if we did, we'd have to be very careful. Again, there's poison ivy, wasps, and bees, so just be very mindful of that. We do spray for wasps and bees the 2 days before camp, but again, keep your eyes out. Heat stroke and dehydration are our biggest concerns at day camp because it's likely going to be hot. One thing we'd like to encourage is that all scouts and prospective scouts and even leaders are required to have a drink of water before the station begins. Now, when I say that, I'm not asking them to chug 16 ounces of water. We're talking about fill the bottom of their cup, maybe 4 to 6, maybe even 8 ounces of water, and drink it at least at every station, and then certainly if they're more thirsty. We don't want the water wasted. We are bringing the water from Decatur because we know that the scouts have a hard time drinking the well water. So we've tried to alleviate that situation, but we certainly don't want to waste the water, and do not let them wash their hands in the drinking water because we will run out. Allergies and EpiPens are a big deal. This is especially a big deal for walking leaders. No one should be giving anyone else food to eat. So, for example, at lunchtime, everyone needs to eat their own lunch. We need to make sure that scouts wash their hands. If we have allergens that we need to be more aware of, we'll know that after we have the med forms. But EpiPens should be kept with the walking leaders. And that's because, frankly, if someone needs the EpiPen, they need it faster than the nurse can get there. So we will notify you of that and be in touch should that be a problem. We also want to make sure that camp is left cleaner than when we found it. So please make sure that everyone uses Leave No Trace. It doesn't matter who dropped it as long as it gets picked up. That's the rule at camp. So all trash needs to be picked up. There's also a requirement that there must be 2 deep leadership. Now you're probably wondering how come there's only 1 walking leader in every group and some stations only have 1 adult also. Well, that's because when we put those 2 people together, that creates 2 deep leadership. And there's never a time at camp when there's going to be a walking group completely alone with just 1 adult. You're always in eyesight of others. Make sure, however, that you recognize all of those youth protection training kind of initiatives and make sure that you're never one-on-one with a scout. Make sure that you always have another adult with you, and especially even if you're driving, be mindful of that. For walking leaders especially, check-in and check-out procedures and policies are essentially this. There'll be a clipboard at your station. The parents check in with the walking leader by signing on the spreadsheet every day, and then they check out with the walking leader by signing out every day. Again, if there's an early check-in or an early check-out, I, myself, or Wendy will get them and deal with that. Walking leaders, we really need you at camp by 8:30 a.m. and we probably are going to need you there until about 4:15. That's just because we need you there before all of the scouts start getting dropped off, and certainly need you to stay until the last ones are picked up. Now, occasionally there's a random scout that's left behind, that's parents are running late. If that's the case, they'll sit with us and you can leave, but we just need you to make sure that you stay until the majority of them are gone, until you pass your clipboard off to me. Again, one of the reasons day camp has been so successful, Day Camp Rocks, is because of the attitude of all of the staff and volunteers that we have there. We know that every single one of you has unique qualities that you bring to the table. Maybe you're an expert at tying knots, or you're an expert at playing an instrument, or you are an expert at something else that we're not sure about. Just remember that that same thing applies to all of the scouts that we're working with. Sometimes the qualities that they show us the most aren't their most endearing qualities, and we have to look a little bit deeper to find the things that are really enhancing to their personalities or their character. So please remember to look for those qualities and try really hard to engage all of the scouts in your group, even if they're not all from your pack, because again, they won't be. But we know from surveys that the groups that have the most fun don't have to come from the same pack. It's the ones that participate the most within kind of team building experiences and do chants and songs and games and things like that. Again, as an adult at camp, know that your attitude is contagious. If you are grouchy, I guarantee you that every single scout in your group will be. If you complain about the bugs, they will complain about the bugs. If you complain about the rain, they will complain about the rain. One of the years that I was volunteering at camp, it rained every single day. And so the scouts in my group, our catchphrase was we were going to embrace the rain. And they stopped wearing ponchos, and we just had muddy shoes, and we were a big disastrous mess. But it was maybe one of the most fun experiences I had, not just with my kid, but with the scouts in general. So just remember that your attitude will definitely be reflected by all of those around you. We encourage everyone to smile as much as possible, be positive, try to phrase things in the positive, and we certainly want all of the scouts to use manners, and they will if that's modeled to them. We really want to encourage cooperation, not competition. There are a lot of activities where teams will be racing against each other, but at the end of the day, it does not matter who wins. It is not a competition. We just simply want them to complete some of these team building activities. So do your best to encourage that as well. You're helping out at day camp probably because your child is participating, and we don't want you to ignore your child. Sometimes I've walked away from camps and I thought, gosh, did I even see my kid today? We want to make sure that you don't ignore your own child. So be sure to sit by them at lunch or walk with them every once in a while. But please do remember that you are a staff or member or maybe just a volunteer, and there are other scouts that are going to probably need your assistance. Lastly, just a reminder, make sure that you ask for help if something's not going right, whether you're a station leader or a walking leader. If you're having problems with something, just ask. We're happy to help because maybe we made a mistake and we need to fix something entirely, or maybe it's something simple that we can just walk you through. And if you're struggling with any scouts or any adults in your group, let us know, because the last thing we want is for you to go home on Friday really frustrated when we could have maybe made an adjustment at 9:30 on Wednesday morning and made everything better. Fix things in terms of weather. If there's lightning, we have to be under a pavilion. So we'll bring everybody back to the big pavilion and keep them as busy as we can. We have an entire day of rainy day activities that we can do. We'll try to rotate stations still, but basically we would stay put under the pavilion until the lightning goes away. Severe weather, there's not really a lot of places for us to go. So we just have to, number one, be really hopeful that doesn't happen. But two, there are a ton more procedures within your manual that you'll get a copy of, and we also emailed to you if you'd like, talking about what would we do if there was a fire, what would we do if there was heavy rain, what would we do if there was a tornado watch, a tornado warning, et cetera, et cetera. So please take a look at that page and be mindful of that, but also know that out there at camp, our really main structures that we can get under are our two pavilions. Should there be someone at camp that is unsafe, or we need to keep everyone kind of together until maybe the police arrive or something like that, that would be what we would call the lockdown. That would be notified to you by calling, and also the directors would get to you via station leaders as fast as we can. Everyone would stay put during a lockdown. Again, we're outside. This has to be very different than school. But basically, if there's an intruder at camp without a wristband, until we know who they are, we would do not send anybody to the restrooms. Don't send anybody to walk to the next station. Just stay put until you get the all clear from one of the directors. So Tom, Wendy, or myself. Occasionally, no matter how hard I try with the program plans, there are things that are going to not go right. Maybe I planned too much. Maybe I didn't plan enough. Maybe it just isn't working. Maybe there's a little bit of downtime while half of the scouts are finishing something. So when there's downtime, I'd encourage you to actively get the scouts involved in something, whether it's a song or a chant or a game. There's another video with a lot of songs that you might learn. You could print some resources off off of Pinterest or something. You could do some additional activities if I used to bring in my backpack that I would hike around with as a walking leader. I would just bring some extra things to do, like trivia games or, paper and pencil for every scout if we needed to do something quickly or draw something out. I already mentioned this, but we really, really want to be cautious of running, not only because it hurts when you fall at camp, but it also is just going to make the scouts get a lot hotter, get a lot more dehydrated quickly, but it's a lot of walking. So they might feel like running at 8 o'clock in the morning, but they probably aren't going to feel that way at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we have to, keep them busy all day. So just be mindful of that. Some other downtime things would be, think of an animal that starts with the letter A, and then the next person goes to B, the next person goes to C, etc., etc. You could have them create their own whatever you want, pirate ship, spaceship, boat, doesn't matter, and have them do some drawings if you brought along a notebook and some pencils. Roses and thorns are one of our favorite things to do, especially towards the end of the day. Have every single person tell you something that they liked, and every single person tell you something that maybe wasn't their favorite. The objective is to not let them go on and on and on about any of them, but just to identify that it's okay that they liked certain things and not other things. And certainly Simon Says and Hangman are always good fallbacks. Just a really quick review for the walking leaders. I want to, obviously first say thank you to you. And then just make sure that you always know where the scouts are that are in your charge. Make sure you use the buddy system. Remember to use 2 deep leadership. Do your very, very best to keep the scouts on their schedule. There's a 5-minute walking time between every station. Some stations you'll need all 5 minutes, some you won't, but just do your very best. Try to be positive. If you're cheerful and positive, the campers will be too. Even if things aren't going great, please be positive. Likewise, if you freak out, the scouts will too. So if there's lightning and you panic, they will, I guarantee it. So be aware that you're the role model at camp. So bugs and the heat and skin knees and rain all happen, and we just need to keep smiling through all of it. Something new and really important this year that walking leaders need to know is that at shooting sports, there is an additional nature requirement that the scouts must do in order to fulfill the requirements for certain belt loops that they're earning this year at camp. So there's downtime at shooting sports when they're not literally on the range. So when they're not on the range, please make sure you take the time to do those activities with them and discuss them with them. And they should be things where everyone can just sit and talk, or even lay on the ground and look up at the sky and look for birds. And one of them is a 1-foot hike with a magnifying glass, and others is finding 6 animal signs or talking about 6 things that they've seen. So try to keep them busily engaged in those activities, even when they're waiting and taking their turns. There's also going to be Legos up there, so I would encourage you to make sure that they get the requirement done first before you let them play with the Legos. Please assist your group with learning all the scouts' names and creating a positive group chant or a cheer. We want them to be really loyal in scouting, but we also want them to be courteous and kind. If a child is struggling with their behavior and they need to take a break, or maybe they need just a break from you, or you need a break from them more likely, whatever, just let us know. We can certainly have kids take a break with us, but also we can step in and let you have a break as well. Sometimes some of the kids are a little challenging, so don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, remember there's no smoking anywhere at camp. That's important to remember, and that includes vaping. And remember that all walking leaders need to sign in and out of camp every single day, and that you are expected to complete all the trainings. So as a walking leader, you're expected to assist in upholding all the camp's policies and morale and expectations, etc. With that, if you have any questions, please let us know. For the station leaders, just a couple of things to remind you about. Essentially, we just want to remind you that we want to keep camp happening, rain or shine. Of course, lightning will put a damper to that, but if we have to close shut down certain activities because of the weather. We have other activities to throw in. We'll just need you to kind of do your best to run those for us should the need arise, but hopefully it won't arise, we need to keep the boys, not boys, we need to keep the scouts hydrated. Again, make sure that they don't play in the water. We want them to drink it. We know, again, that some of the activities are going to go really, really well for some of the stations, and we know that some of them are going to be really, really challenging. So please just remember and remind everyone to always do their best. Please remind adults that are working with the scouts, either the walking leader or parents, remind them to assist when needed, but encourage the boys to encourage the scouts to ask other scouts for help rather than consistently just looking to their parent behind them to do the work for them. And again, tigers are going to need more assistance than probably anybody else, so just be mindful of that. Remember that all adults and all campers need to have a wristband. That includes you, but if you see someone without one, let us know. Of course, the program plans we've attached to this email as well, but if you have any questions about what anything means, let us know. You'll have a box that's pre-packed with all of your supplies and another set of the plans every single day delivered to your station. So if you don't understand something, just ask. If you want to come to flags every morning, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, it's okay. If you don't and you want to finish setting up your station. And just really, really be mindful of the time because we need to stay on track and on schedule just as much as humanly possible. So this concludes the staff training PowerPoint. We need for you please to enter the following numbers in your cell phone. My phone number is area code 309-825-6128. And Wendy's, you can put Wendy's in your phone if you'd like. You don't have to, but you can if you'd like. Hers is 217-454-5682. After you enter them in your phone, would you please send a text to at least me, if not Wendy, but at least me, and let me know what your favorite drink and your favorite kind of candy are. Your favorite drink and your favorite kind of candy, or maybe a sweet treat. And if you don't eat sweet treats and you say celery, I will relate to that and I will bring us celery. So I need to know what kind of drink and what kind of treat you like. And when you text that to me, that's how I'll know that you've done the training and can mark that off so that I can notify our GSLAC representative for the camps. A reminder that we hope to see you all on June 11th from 5 to 7 at the early check-in. Again, we need all the trainings and the medical forms done by that. Take a moment to make sure that you've done everything here. And if you have, then we will see you at day camp. Day camp rocks!